Hello, happiness abounder, and welcome back. Continuing our discussion all about the curse of judgment, today I want to dive right into the emotion of envy and jealousy and how that can be a judgment of failure or a judgment of lack of action. So, I'm going to start with a story. Before I started my podcast, I thought about starting a podcast. And it had been recommended to me to follow this local podcaster and listen to her show. So I followed her show, and unbeknownst to me, because I wasn't paying any attention to the time, out of nowhere, it felt like she announced that it was her 1-year anniversary of doing podcasting. And that shook me. Because I was like, wait, what? It's been a year? And here's the thing. This person, it's so silly, but this person lived in the same city I lived in at the time. This person had red hair. This person spoke about self-help. This person was an Aries, like I am. And it was like all these little silly things that don't really make a difference or matter. But I had started to see a lot of myself, a lot of similarities of me with this person. And here they were doing a podcast celebrating their 1 year, and I had been thinking about doing a podcast for forever. And I would love to say that that was me going, I need to get it in gear. But instead, I started to not like listening to this individual. I started to judge their podcast. I started to judge their actions. I started to judge their social media. I started to do all of this judgment because I was feeling envious. And I even started talking to the person who recommended this podcast to me. And I was like, ugh, can you believe what that person did the other day? Blah, 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 blah. And then I would catch myself and go, but I really liked that show until it triggered me. And I really liked that show until I didn't anymore. But that didn't mean that I needed to go and, luckily I only talked to the one person, but it didn't mean that I needed to go and bash what this person was doing. It was fully because I was judging myself on my inability to act and my perceived failure, because I saw so much of a likeness between the two of us, and this person was chasing their dreams and I wasn't. So I felt envy, but it was really a judgment of my own failure and my own inability to act. And I bring this up because when we feel envy or jealousy, and there are slight differences, but in this purpose we'll lump them together. When we feel those things, it's an opportunity. Now, it was about 2 weeks of I took the opportunity of not wanting to see that this was something I could do just as easily. I took the opportunity of not wanting to feel these emotions and wanting to blame and project it onto somebody else. But after about 2 weeks, I was like, what am I doing? This isn't who I want to be. I liked the show, and now I'm just like, what am I feeling? I was feeling envious. Why was I envious? Because I had lacked taking action, and this person hadn't. And I was envious of that. Envious that they had a year of podcasting under the belt when I had none. And yeah, so I want to ask you if you have ever had anything like that happen in your life, where you just don't like somebody and everything they do isn't right anymore, and you're like scrolling through social media and you're just like, oh, this, and you get really mad about the stuff that they are doing, and you're judging them, and you're judging them to a standard of failure. Like, you want them to fail. And I know that's hard to admit. You don't have to admit it to me, but like, think about it for yourself. If you're holding them to a judgment and a standard of failure because you want them to fail, take a look at why. And remember yesterday's episode, any judgment is usually a mirror. It's a reflection of yourself. So you're holding this person to a standard you want them to fail because, why? Because you feel envious of what they may be doing. You feel envious of them doing the things that you want to do yourself. And you may even look at someone and go, they have a lifestyle I'm not even interested in. But there's some ping in you of that, some ping and pang, of jealousy, of envy, that they have something. And that's up to you to figure out what that is. It's up to you to take the action, take the other opportunity. Don't turn a blind eye to your emotions and not taking action. Turn the other way and take a look, a hard look at yourself. Because you feel envious does not mean you are a bad person. Because you feel jealous does not mean you're a bad person. Because you've been holding them to a standard and wishing secretly that you want them to fail does not mean you're a bad person. What it means is it's an opportunity to turn things in the other way. Wish them the best and take a look at the situation, take a look at what you're feeling, and evaluate how you can move forward from this. So in my instance, after my 2 weeks of kind of being like a jerk, to nobody in particular, like I was being a jerk in my own mind and telling my one friend about this, but I had an opportunity and then I took it. And I went, okay, why am I feeling this way? Like I liked the show, I liked the person, and now I don't. Why? These feelings started happening after that person announced their 1-year anniversary of podcasting. Why does that make me feel differently about them? That's a milestone, right? Yeah, but it's a milestone that you wish you had. This person's been podcasting for a year. You've been listening for a year, saying you want to do your own show and you haven't taken the steps to do it. Wow. So, then what? Then I used my emotion of envy as a catalyst in my life to get where I wanted to go. Because I wasn't just projecting that I was envious and that made me angry and vulnerable and I didn't want to acknowledge that, so I got angry and mad and griped about that person, which it was for 2 weeks. But instead, I used envy as a catalyst, as a launch pad to go, okay, I'm feeling envious. Why? Okay, what can I do about that? Well, I can start a podcast. And that's what I did. It was something I'd wanted. So why not go for it? But instead of judging other people to a standard of failure, instead of judging yourself and then not taking action, turn that. Don't let judgment be a curse and rule your life with negativity. Instead, be aware of the emotions that are behind that judgment and then take action to move in a positive direction. Now, I don't follow the individual in that podcast anymore. Not out of envy, not out of anything like that, but because I don't feel like it really resonates with me anymore. But at first, it was everything I needed. Not only for that year beforehand, but it was everything I needed to get my butt in gear and start this podcast. Everything I needed to get my butt in gear to move in a positive direction, to take my life to those next levels I could envision for myself. So I want to encourage you to look beyond my story, but see how it may be applicable to you in your life. You follow somebody on social media and you feel a slight pang when they post a perfect family picture, ask yourself why. And ask yourself how you can change that and how you can use that as a launch pad in your life. So I'm going to leave you with that today. I hope that this episode resonated with you. If it did, please share it with someone else that you think may need this message. So that said, have a wonderful day. Take a look at who you feel envious of and use it as a launch pad for your own success instead of wallowing in it. And above everything else, remember, you are capable of happiness abound.